Yeah, and I want to go through this list because he names 3 individuals and he names 3 groups here, okay?
That's correct.
Tell us who the 3 individuals are.
3 individuals. He starts with Peter.
That did what?
Peter saw the risen Jesus.
So he's giving us the eyewitnesses that everybody knows saw the risen Jesus. This is the creedal information.
By the way, the Greek word there for appeared,
Yeah.
the action is not on the person who saw, the action is on the one who appeared. So Peter didn't bring it about. Jesus made himself visible. Jesus came into the room where Peter was. So that's pretty neat. So Peter, James, and then Paul appends his name to the list. Nobody thinks Paul was there in the original list. He wasn't there before he was a Christian. So 2 individuals in the original list, Peter and James, 3 groups, the 12, the 500, and all the apostles, which the general feeling is that's a larger group than the 12 disciples. So 3 groups, 2 individuals, and then Paul sticks his name on the end.
Okay, so he says, this is the creedal information. I'm giving it to you here. I preached it at 51. You believed it. And the fact is, I'm back here. I'm writing it to you at 55. And he says, I got it from someplace else. And so scholars say, okay, go all the way back to his meeting, because he's in Galatians. He said, I went up to Jerusalem and I saw 2 of the key people. Okay, talk about
James.
that event. And when did he see them?
About 5 years after the cross.
And we know that because that's what he told us.
He gives us the years himself. And don't forget, he's trustworthy. This is a well-honed deal here. Paul Barnett, the Australian historian, says, I've taught ancient history in 4 or 5 universities, he says, and there is nothing in the ancient world that comes close to the tightness of this argument.
Okay.
That's an amazing comment from somebody who's used to ancient sources.
Okay, now this is such an important meeting, okay? I want you to spend a little time on this meeting and describe the fact of the word hysteresis that he uses in reference to this meeting. What does that mean?
Right, hysteresis
Is the Greek word for?
is the Greek word for, well, now, unfortunately, a lot of translations just say he saw Peter. But the word actually means to inquire of, to ask questions of. And there have been, as far as I know, 3 major word studies from non-evangelicals saying it's not quite the eyewitness reporter on the news, but it's that kind of idea of, go ask the guy who was there. I wasn't there. John was there. Go talk to him. It's that kind of thing. And so we use the phrase the horse's mouth. Paul got on a ship and came back to Jerusalem so he could meet with the fellows who was really there.
Okay, describe this meeting. You got Peter and James and Paul. What do you think happened in that little meeting?
Since the theme of the book of Galatians is the gospel, I tell people teasingly, here's the theme of Galatians in a sentence. It's all about the gospel. Get it right. Don't add to it or it's heresy. Don't subtract or it's heresy. Any questions? I didn't think so. Okay, go. And Paul, to start that book on the gospel, he's going to the guys who know what the gospel is firsthand.
Both of these guys were eyewitnesses. They go back right to Jesus himself. And so what was the conversation like?
Well, I got to think they're talking about the gospel. By the way, Paul comes back in Galatians 2, and he specifically says, I set before them the gospel I was preaching to see if I was running or had run in vain. He said, I laid my gospel before the other apostles and said, guys, tell me, are we all on the same page? Okay, were they on the same page? Well, just a few verses later, you get these 5 words in English. They added nothing to me. They added nothing. Well, Paul, that's pretty good, but you left out these 2 points. No, they added nothing to me. And then just a few verses after that, they give Paul and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship. I ask people, when's the last time you laid hands on somebody who was a heretic? I mean, that means agreement by its very nature. And then you have Paul saying, 1 Corinthians 15:11, right after that early creed in 1 Corinthians 11, he says, he just got done talking about the others who saw Jesus, James, Peter. He says, whether it is I or they, so we preach, and so you believe. I think what Paul's saying is, look, you don't believe me? Please, go talk to Peter. Go talk to James. You're going to get the same story from all of us. And that kind of,
Yeah.
it fits like this.
I want